If you've ever felt overwhelmed with the photography process, especially as a beginner, and what you're supposed to shoot and how you're supposed to shoot it and kind of the order of operations of things, I may have a good process for you to try. Now, before we go any further, I just want to say that this thing that I'm about to tell you is not certainly the only process, and I am not claiming that it is the best process. But as somebody who is relatively new to street photography, who's been doing it about a year, when you first start up, you do what a lot of people do, or I did what a lot of people do, is you go on YouTube and you search how to be a street photographer, how to get good at street photography, how to become a better street photographer. And it can be very overwhelming with the amount of information that is kind of out there, and it can be hard to kind of process that in the moment when you actually go out and decide to shoot with your camera. So what is this process that I'm talking about? It is to find a good foundation, a good pillar, or a good anchor, and build your photo around that. Depending on when you go out to shoot, the weather conditions, the specific objectives you have, and what you're looking to accomplish, all of those things are going to change the type of anchors or the type of foundations that you're going to build your photo around. For example, if you decide to go out on a bright sunny afternoon where the sun is high in the sky and there's a lot of blue sky and there's a lot of light and shadows, that very well may be the anchor that you build your photos around, that strong contrast between the light and the shade. If you go out at night or where it's cloudy or overcast and the light is not as great, you may go out and search for bright colors or an interesting pattern or just interesting people that you see out on the street. And that's going to be your anchor. Because I know that when I first went out after consuming all of this information and going out for the first time, it's almost like analysis paralysis. You kind of have a mental checklist in your head. Well, should I find the light first? Should I find an interesting subject first? Should I find a great scene and kind of wait and sit in that scene and wait for something to develop? And it can be almost too much. And then by the end of it, you kind of are going back and, replaying the day in your head, and you're wishing, oh, I wish I did this differently, or I wish this had gone this way. And it can be especially deflating as a new photographer. So by just finding that anchor and building your picture around that, that is going to save you, in my opinion, a lot of headache. And I guess the next natural question is how do you find that anchor? And that is to just trust your gut, trust your instincts, and follow that. If you turn a corner and you see something interesting half a block down, don't be afraid to follow that instinct and see what's down there. Because by developing that, you're going to develop, one, your own style, but also you're going to be continuing to develop that instinct that is going to serve you from now until you stop deciding to take photographs. But now that we have all of that out of the way, let's jump into Lightroom. I want to share with you some of the photographs that I have taken with different types of subjects and different types of anchors. Kind of go over what I believe works well, what could have been done better. And at the end of this video, we're actually going to go out and do a live demonstration and hopefully catch some good photographs. And so you can see in this first example that I am standing underneath a bridge and there's a strong light source coming. The sun is basically in the top right part of the frame, shining in that direction, and it kind of creates this cool, like the frame or the composition is almost split in half between the top left corner that's all covered in shadow and the bottom right that is being affected by the sun. And it created this cool kind of juxtaposition almost, where if I knew that if I could get somebody walking through the right side of the frame, that it would create this really strong silhouette and kind of create or capture the moment that I had envisioned in my mind. And so in this picture in particular, I would say that the anchor is definitely the contrast between the sun and the shadow. Here is actually one of my favorite pictures that I think I've ever taken. And this was actually taken at the Columbus Zoo. And I would say that the anchor of this was the scene itself. Because what happens is these 5 kids were standing in front of this giant, like, floor to ceiling aquarium. Obviously you can see all the fish in the background, and by standing in front of that, it created such a strong silhouette. And I knew that if I could just frame it correctly and capture all 5 of them looking through the glass at all these fish swimming by, that it would again create this really strong contrast between the aquarium and where the girls was standing. Again, I think the anchor in this is not only the subjects there in the foreground, the kids in the foreground, but also the scene itself. And that's kind of what I was saying in the beginning, is that you can have more than one anchor. You know, it can be multiple things at once. And I think in this particular case, the scene and then the subjects are both the anchors that kind of capture your attention as soon as you look at the picture. All right, I know I promised you guys a POV walk with some live demonstration, but when I went downtown to actually shoot, I forgot to pack an extra battery for the DJI that I'm recording this on, so I only had literally about 10 or 12 minutes of footage before the battery died without a backup. So how we're going to finish this video is we're actually just going to show the pictures on the screen. I'll have some brief descriptions on the different anchors and why I think they work. Again, these pictures are not going to win any awards, but hopefully you get the idea. So I apologize about that, but hopefully the point gets across to you all. If you end up liking this video though, please give it a like, consider subscribing. I appreciate all the love and support, and I will catch you guys in the next video.